but I hope not to lose you all in the course of giving my lectures. But you can always ask questions at the end of the lectures in case you are not clear what I said or even disagree with what I said. So there is a window for asking questions at the end of the lectures during the Q&A session. But I hope to give a set of lectures which is informative, and perhaps also enlightening on the question of Islam and science. And I hope that after 7 weeks, you would have acquired some knowledge in science and left the lectures with better understanding of science. If that doesn't happen, then I think I have not achieved my goal of imparting knowledge on Islam and science. I hope the sound is clear because I messages with the sound is clear because I don't have a microphone. I don't have an earphone with microphone on. I'm just relying on computer audio. So if that doesn't good quality sound, that I'm sorry.
Maybe a bit clear to the laptop or to the computer. There's some echo.
There's an echo, because my earphone with the mic on, I tried. It doesn't work that well.
That one now is okay. Now it's okay.
Now it's better, yeah.
When you're a bit closer to the.
Yeah. So maybe I need to speak closer to the laptop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I begin my lecture now?
Yes, go ahead. You see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the maximum size, or maybe you can enlarge it so that it covers the whole page.
The whole page.
I think there's a cup symbol icon at the bottom.
Okay.
Just click on that and you will get a bigger picture. Yes.
How about that?
Okay. So basically, it's a lecture on the subject of Islam and science, and I have divided today's lecture into several parts. Yeah. For example, part number one is motivating the discussion on Islam and science. Number two, giving a rationale of the topic. Why do we need to discuss the issue of Islam and science? Number three, what are the objectives of the discourse? What do I hope to achieve in the discourse or at the end of it? Number four, what are the tools of analysis that I am using in analyzing the question of the issue of Islam and science, or rather the difference between Islam and science? And these tools are the disciplines of history of science and philosophy of science. Next, I will move on to talking about the field of the history of science, understanding the issue or the question of Islam and science. Then I will move on to relationship between Islam, science, and the philosophy of science. And there I will make a distinction between science and the philosophy of science, and what the philosophy of science can tell us, or in what way it can throw light on the question of the relationship between Islam and science. And there I will also the views of several philosophers from the Western academic tradition and also from the Islamic world. and then I will look at the contributions made by philosophers in their capacity as what I would call the cultural bearers of science. That means they are the ones who formulate and propagate the image of science as it is understood by the educated public. Because the task of producing the image of science does not lie in themselves, but rather in the historians and philosophers of science. They are the ones who tell us what is the nature of scientific knowledge, and not the scientists themselves. Scientists are too busy doing their own research that they are not in a position to act as what I would say public relations officers for science. So our notion of what scientific knowledge is obtained from what the historians and philosophers of science say. For example, in the West, you can find philosophers like and Thomas. Then I will discuss also after that the contestation of the image of science. That means how is science to be understood or conceived, and how this uh, image of science is formulated not only by Western philosophers, uh, but also uh, by Muslim intellectuals who have participated in the discourse on science and religion. And I will end by making some concluding remarks. So that's the basic structure and outline of my talk today. Okay. By the way, am I getting through, at least in terms of the audio?
It's okay, bro. Yeah.
I hope, Sharan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So maybe the problem lies with some of your Wi-Fi, could be, yeah. Because if it's from this end, then Sharan would not be able to listen to me clearly. Okay. So uh, I will go on. When someone utters the phrase Islam and science, uh, what is it that comes to mind when we come across the phrase Islam and science, or when we hear someone talking about Islam and science, or when we come across a book with the title Islam and science? And here I'm guessing at some possible responses that might emerge. For example, someone might think that, well, when we talk about Islam and science, we are talking about uh, two incompatible forms of knowledge. Since Islam is a form of religion and the knowledge it gives us is religious knowledge. And science is a different type of knowledge, a critical and not a dogmatic type of knowledge. Yeah. So they are fundamentally different in nature, and therefore suggest that they are incompatible or perhaps in conflict. Yeah? So that's probably one reaction or one response to the phrase Islam and science. Yeah? And then related to that, someone might think, well, sometimes you can get a sort of a conflict between the two because there are different beliefs presented by Islam and science and what they say about the world. Yeah? For example, question of origin of man. Yeah? In Islam, in the Quran, it says that we come from Adam and Eve, Adam and Hawa. The creation account of the origin of man we share with Christianity. Yeah? But from a scientific point of view, based on Darwin's theory of evolution, The explanation is a negative explanation, where man originates, man understood as particular species, like Homo sapiens, originated from an earlier form which is perhaps similar or closer to the primates. Yeah. And so there might be a sort of an evolutionary connection between humans and primates, which perhaps are earlier form of form of life, form of existence prior to man. So there you find different beliefs about the origins of man. So again, question of incompatibility when it comes to belief. Certain beliefs, not all of them. And perhaps another image that might come to one's mind when we hear the phrase Islam and science is that Muslim countries which practice the religion of Islam are behind those advanced countries like America, Japan, or Germany in terms of science and technology. Yeah? So again, Islam is not seen as progressive in a sense because as manifested in countries which have the Islamic faith, where people are, majority of them are Muslims, they are not as advanced as those other countries in terms of science and technology. Yeah. So the kind of responses here that I present are mainly negative, I admit, yeah. But there, of course, there could be positive responses as well. But I would say that on the whole, the responses tend to be on the negative side because of the current situation in relationship between Islam and science and what holds between them. Yeah. So only a few perhaps who have no knowledge would say, well, if you look at the history of science, Muslims have made important contributions to the development of science during the Middle Ages. And in that case, you have a sort of a positive evaluation of science. But that is only well versed or learned in the history of science, for example. Well, okay. Now let's look at the next slide, which deals with the rationale for looking at the subject of Islam and science. Yeah? What's the justification for dealing with this